Ready. Mic on. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So, good morning, everyone. Any doubts? So, we are able to complete your the topic till industry. Let me open your chat. Good morning, dear. Why someone deleted the message? Actually, I am the packed with the class. Just I am leaving one class and I'm coming in this class. Okay. So maybe 1-2 minutes. Okay. So if you have any doubts, any questions till today, starting from the first class, okay, till yesterday class, you may ask. Okay. And we are trying to cover in this today class and the I have found. So Vasari, what you're asking now is agriculture startups. It may be कि that's it may be it's a basically कि they are coming with the investment. They are investing in these activities, and either they are coming in the upstream stage or the downstream stage. They are going to invest in these activities and they are promoting this. So you can take in the both the way, because suppose they prefer to do the business of the processed goods. So after that they are coming and they want to know I will be the input supplier of that, okay, raw material supplier. So they will come at the your upstreams. So both it can be clear. Now if you are not, you are now so today we can start from the inflation topic. Already I just given you concept inflation, clear. So yes, Subham. Yeah, Subham, you asking about the angel tax. Actually, there is a concept of angel investors, or angel investors are the basically individual. Okay, normally it's a individuals. It's maybe any institution, but generally it's a individuals. They are basically very wealthy persons, and they are basically funding to a particular startup. Suppose you are starting a business and you are getting help from a particular individual. They invested in your company. So they are known as the angel investors. If they're investing in that, so they were also allowed to get the back benefits, tax benefits. If suppose any angel investor, they are investing in a new company, and suppose this company earning profit and they are also getting the profit. So government announced earlier that there is a tax benefits. Okay, so taxes paid by the angel investor on their capital gain and the profit. This is come under the angel tax. Okay, angel investor means the individual investor. They are having the use money, the resources. They are investing in a startup. They are helping to this startup. And why it was promoted starting, because government was getting the problems. Basically, startups initially they were getting the problem. So government has also taken initiative to you can take loan from the banks under the startup schemes, and also they promoting to the individual investors that you can help to the startups. So that concept is there here. Yeah. Inflation topic now. Let's start this topic. Okay. So this inflation topic already I discussed, a concept I discussed, but as a topic I have not discussed till now. Okay, so now today we'll complete this inflation as a topic. Then we are going to move to your other topic, like you can say capital market. You're getting, sir, any scheme in any industry sectors. Biswajit, see, fact is, you are also not aware about that. We are also not aware about that. With which plan and schemes government is going to relate that, because so many schemes government is running. So if they are running means each and every scheme having some objectives, government has intentions behind a particular schemes. So don't think which scheme is important. What the schemes which are running today, these all are important for us being the students. So you should know each and everything, the maximum possible you have to know. Which scheme they are going to relate. Who knows about it here? So, and hardly how many the schemes they are running even industry. Maximum maybe so like 7 to 8, 10 you can just take. Similar like the agriculture. So a small and the large, you can just know everything, because maybe sometime they can ask you in the PT. They can frame a question in the mains. So what you will say, okay, no, I mean, you are going to miss it basically. So don't think like this, which are important. All are important, which are running currently by the government. Okay, you have, it's important for us. And it's not necessary that they are only going to ask. They can just relate with the policies that already implemented the government. Clear? Fine, dear. Tomorrow I will just discuss some of the questions, the mains, mainly mains. Okay, and I think that's if you are trying to solve your PT paper, at least the last year PT paper, so you are getting a comfortable number of answer, you are able to solve it. Okay, and something you should know, like the current, like the policy of the government. On the basis of that we are only worried, but otherwise you can well understanding, you are getting everything, and you will get definitely. So inflations, simply we have discussed with you ki inflation is a process of increase in price level. Okay, that concept already I developed with you, and 3 lines that day I mentioned with you. Okay, the inflation is a process of increase in price level. Inflation is a process of increase in price level. Okay, number one. Okay, increase in price level. And second, I discussed okay, inflation does not mean high price level. You remember that day? Inflation does not mean high price level, and we are also saying the rate at which price level increases is known as the inflation rate. So as I discussed with you, suppose 100 is the index value. Suppose you are forming the index, so you are taking the prices of different commodities, okay, and you are making the index. If index value increase from 100 to 110, so it is known as the, there is a, yeah, we can say there is a inflation, because the process of increase in price level happened at this point. But suppose tomorrow, I mean the after a time period, after some time period, the price level remain at this point, at 110. So when price level remain at 110, and there is no further increase from this point, there is no further increase. So if there is no further increase, so from this point onwards, we can't say there is inflation. So just on the basis of that, we define inflation is a sustained word. You can write it because it should be it is the continuous process. So you can say inflation is a sustained increase in the price level. When you're saying price level, you understand you're talking about the average price of all goods and services. Okay, merely increasing in one and two goods prices we can't say there is inflations, because if there is a average price level, if it's going up, then only we can say there is inflation. So just you define like this. Okay, inflation is a sustained increase in price level. Okay, full stop. The rate at which increases, the rate at which price level increases, or you can write the inflation is the process of, inflation is the process of increase, sustained increase in, inflation is the process of sustained increase in price level. Full stop. The rate at which it increases is known as inflation rate. Like here it's increased at the 10%, so we can say 10% is the inflation rate. Okay, the rate at which it increases is known as inflation rate. And one line you can add it: inflation does not mean high price level. Yes, it's true. Suppose the price level remain 110, so we can't say it is inflation. Inflation is always, we consider the process of increase in price level. From any level, if it increases, then we can say inflation is there. Fine here, first point. Now next is the headline inflations. Headline inflation. So we are discussing between the headline inflations, and next one is the core inflations. Core inflations. So headline inflation means overall when you take the prices of selected basket of goods, which includes your food articles, fuel prices and other commodities, and then you are measuring the inflation, that is known as the headline inflations. Okay, so first you write the headline inflations, few lines here. Right, headline inflations. Right, it refers to the change in, value of all goods and services in the basket. Value of changes in, don't write value price, you write, it refers to the changes in price. Value you avoid it, because yeah, there is a difference between the price and value. In the normal terminology you can use the value, but here it must be the price. Just write, it refers to the changes in price of all goods and services, in the basket. Clear? Full stop. Right, movements in headline inflation are influenced by both by both transitory factors, oblique temporary factors, and the factors which are more persistent, in nature, and shape the SHAP, and shape the direction of inflation, over the medium term. Temporary factors oblique short term factors have a little bearing on the direction of inflations. Okay, full stop. Right, transitory movements often comes, you can write, transitory movements often come from changes in volatile price movements, particularly in the price of food, and fuel. in the price of food and fuel due to due to due to supply constraints, due to supply constraints. Okay, due to supply constraints, comma, while more durable inflation's movements, while more durable inflation's movements, more durable inflation movements are largely the result of, are largely the result of result of changes in aggregate, result of changes in aggregate demand conditions, changes in aggregate demand conditions and inflation expectations, and inflation expectations. Okay, what do you mean by inflation expectation? That part I discussed with you also in the when I was discussing the macroeconomics topic 1, determinants of demand, you remember. So what are the expectations? Suppose everyone expecting in the future price is going up, clear. So what the people will do today? They will demand relatively more goods and services. They will demand relatively more goods and services. Okay, and once their demand is started increasing, so definitely excess demand will create and the price is going to increase. So yes, there is a possibility. So if everyone is started expecting price will increase, then definitely price is going to increase and you will face the in higher inflations. Clear? Now just write one more line. If price changes due to supply constraints, if price changes due to supply constraints are transitory, comma, monetary policy does not have, monetary policy, or just to write, if price changes due to supply constraint of, like supply constraint of, particularly write, don't write the transitory, write supply constraint of fuels and foods, fuels and foods. Okay, then monetary policy, then monetary policy will be less effective, will be less effective for controlling the inflations, for controlling the inflation. Okay, full stop. Please write, please see that this point what we are trying to say. If since in headline inflations we takes the prices of all goods and services, all goods and services, so where the goods like the food articles, goods like your crude oil, their prices are also there, and these are very fluctuating in nature and mainly due to the supply constraints is there. But these factors RBI can't do anything. The monetary policy is not of the India is not going to change the price of crude oil in international market. The monetary policy of India is not going to increase the supply of food grains in the country. So you understand in the short term I am talking about. So in that case we can say that monetary policy normally in these cases is relatively less effective. Clear here? Fine. Okay. So yes, inflation in India generally I will discuss with the core inflations. Okay. Then, or you can just write this core inflation. Then I'm going to the index. Write core inflation. Yeah, next one. Core inflation. Please write. Core inflation excludes. Core inflation means what? That's you have seen. You have just we discussed. Headline inflation means in headline inflations you have taken the prices of food and the fuels. So they are very volatile in the nature, and due to the volatile nature, it keeps fluctuating more. Core inflation means when you remove the prices of foods and prices of fuels from these commodity baskets, Okay, these two commodities you have to remove. Then now you are estimating the inflation, then it is known as the core inflation. So core inflation is not subject to volatility of food articles and the crude one, because their prices is not reflective in the core inflation. So that's he's talking about. Clear? Just right. Core inflation excludes food and fuel items, excludes food and fuel items from headline inflation, full stop, right? core inflation generally refers to core inflation generally refers to that component of inflation that is generalized and likely to persist, refers to that component of inflations that is, just to write, that is yeah, you can write that persists directly, you write, of inflation that persists for a long period, that persists for a long period, largely by demand pressures, and expectations of firms, largely by demand demand force, you can write also, by demand force or demand aggregate demands, and expectations of firms and households, expectations of firms and households. Clear? So simply you can just say that one point here, core inflation simply means it is the when headline inflation is adjusted by the price of fuel and the foods, then that is going to give you the core inflation. Means you have to remove the price of the commodity, I mean food articles and the fuel prices from that baskets, and then other commodity, if you're continuing to that, inflation is known as the core inflation. And now there is a debate is going on whether should RBI take the inflation based on the this headline inflation, or it should be the core inflation, because core inflation is giving the long term inflation which is really giving the structure of the economy, but the masses of the people, they are going to affect by the headline inflation because it includes the prices of food articles and the fuel one, and these two really affecting much more to the economy. So this debate is there, but as per the argument given by that, because the fuel prices and the food prices really affecting the masses of the people, even the producers, investors, okay, so consumers, so it must be considered. So till now it's a headline inflation, the government, I mean RBI and government is taking care, I mean they are making the target, generally your uh, government, RBI, because inflation targeting is the monetary policy one. Find here. Now for next you write the consumer price index inflation. Yeah, so you can divide to one is the consumer price index inflation. Simply you write CPI inflation, or inflation based on consumer price index. And second is known as the wholesale price index inflation. You can say WPI, wholesale price index inflation. So you are forming the index, and because you have to form the index, then index will tell you yes, if there is a change in the index value, then you can say if there is an increase, then you can say yes, inflation is there. Okay, so the index you can form basis on the retail price, and you are choosing some goods, but wholesale price index is not including services. It is only goods they are choosing, but at the wholesale price generally you take. So these two are the difference. Please write your CPI. First, the CPI inflation is a measure of CPI inflation is the measure of the increase in the weighted average of prices in the weighted average of prices of a basket of goods and services of a basket of goods and services. Basically, you have to choose a basket and where you have to put some selected items and their prices you are going to take it. And what are the baskets in a which are the items that I will discuss after this. Yeah. First you write this. The weighted average of prices of a basket of goods and services at consumer price which are normally needs of the consumer, which are normally need of the consumers. Okay, full stop, right? Changes in the CPI changes in the CPI changes in the CPI measures the changes in the CPI measures the cost of living in the economy. Changes in the CPI measures cost of living in the economy. Cost of living in the economy. Clear here? Now next you write wholesale price index. Next one. Wholesale price index. Next one. Okay, please write the wholesale price index inflation. The wholesale price index inflation is a measure of the increase in the weighted average measure of the increase in the weighted average of prices increase in the weighted average of prices of a basket of goods only. Of a basket of goods only means we are not taking the services. The basket of goods only at the wholesale prices at the wholesale prices. Check there. Okay, please you check these two. One is your CPI. Just get some ideas about this. CPI means consumer price index. WPI means wholesale price index. So under wholesale price index, we are only taking the prices of goods, and CPI we are taking the prices of goods as well as services, and which are really need of the individuals. These commodities we are taking in consumer price index. See, before Urjit Patel committee recommendations, RBI was targeting the WPI, wholesale price index, and RBI is trying to achieve this inflation rate, WPI. But in WPI, we have just discussed with you that we only take the prices of goods only. We are only taking the prices of goods. We are not considering the services. And second drawback which is in the WPI is that we generally take the price of the goods at the wholesale price. Now, two problems arise if you are measuring the inflation basis on the wholesale price index. One issue is that country like us, India, where around 50%, more than 50% is contributed by the services, and you are not included the price of services for measuring the inflations. So really it's a fair to target the WPI, because WPI does not include the price of services, only goods prices are there. But the economy, you are knowing the 60%, around more than 50% is contributed by the service sector. So how you can ignore it? And if you're ignoring it, then really you are going to get the real picture in the economy, and really you are able to provide the conducive environment because you're targeting the WPI. So it's started debated in the country. And second issue was, as far as consumer is concerned, consumers are buying the commodities at market price, at the retail price, not at the wholesale price. But in the wholesale price index, you are taking the commodities prices or goods prices only at wholesale price. Again, it's not showing the actual impact to the consumers. So, the Urjit Patel just recommended that the RBI should focus to the CPI, Consumer Price Index, okay, as an inflation target, and then we are started implementing the flexible inflation targeting framework, where we are assuming we are targeting 4% plus minus 2%. This 4% is the inflation based on consumer price index. Yeah, clear to all the difference of these two? Fine. Please write next. Another concept is the producers price index. Yeah, producer price index. Here, other problem arised. Okay, the firm, the producers, they are actually not able to estimate, okay, how we can adjust the price of my commodity. Because if you take the market price, if it increases, then it may be due to the increase in tax. It may be due to increase in the profit margin of the wholesalers. Okay, but yes, there is a difference between wholesalers and the producers. Producers price index means that you have to take the price of commodity, the price which producers received. So producers received price you have to take for that particular commodities. And at what price the wholesaler is selling, that can't be the producer's price. Clear? So producer price means the actually what producers are getting after selling their product. That price is known as the producer's price. And at that price you have to make index, and that index is known as the producer's price index. And inflation, if you are considering on the basis of this is known as inflation, but based on producer's price index, where producers actually they are getting that, yes, they can take the actual decision of their business if they are knowing about the producer's price index. Clear? So this is for this, okay, right? The producer's price index measures the producer price index measures the average change in selling prices, average change in selling prices received by received by domestic producers received by domestic producers of goods and services over time. Yeah, received by domestic domestic producers of goods and services over time, over the given period of time. You can write, right? The producers price index measures price changing from the perspective price changing from the perspective of the seller from the perspective of the seller and differs from the and differs from the CPI, consumer price index, and differs from the CPI, which measures price changes, from the perspective of the buyers, Clear, dear? The producer's price index. So clear? So concept of inflations. Now wholesale CPI inflations and wholesale price inflations, wholesale price index inflation, and next is the producer's price index inflations. Clear? Now next you please write. Yeah, there is another concept is your we are using consumer price index, CPI, consumer, or you can write this consumer price index inflation. So on the basis of consumer price index, you can form the consumer price index. You can just take two different commodities. One, you can take consumer price index inflation, all India. We are talking about the headline inflations. Clear? One is the CPI inflation, rural. Commodities more or less remain same except few one, but the weight assigned for rural commodities, rural persons, is different from the urban persons, because as per their demand of particular goods, you are assigning. Similarly, you can just form the consumer price index for urban. Okay. Consumer price index inflation, urban. So here you are taking the different weight of the commodities, So combined, it is known as all India, or you can say combined. So now the government is targeting this too. Yes, there is another is CPI AL. CPI AL means, so that is a consumer price index. It is known as the consumer price index for agriculture labor, and other is CPI, consumer price index of IW, means industrial workers. Industrial workers. Clear? So these two are there. There's also we were using, but now the RBI is giving more focus on the rural and urban. Okay. So earlier we were using this consumer price index of agricultural workers. Basically, we were using this for the inflations prevailing at the, but only they taken the agricultural laborers as the basis key, what are their consumptions. But this is modified to overall rural areas you are taking it. Earlier, only focusing on the industrial workers where you are, I mean, adjusting your wages and the pension, other things, and you are focusing on the pattern of consumption of industrial workers. Okay, and on the basis of that, you are formulating the consumer price index of industrial workers earlier. But now these all modified this now in we are using CPI inflation rural and CPI inflations urban. For rural areas this is, and urban area this is also used, but it's a broader sense we are using this one because number of goods and services we included more in the rural areas and also in urban areas. And we are just now we are focusing on one mainly on the consumer price index of combined, that is all India, because you are knowing the difference between the wholesale price index and the consumer price index. As I discussed with you, the wholesale price index only includes the price of goods, but economy like India where around more than 50% output it is from the services sector, how we can just ignore the service sector? Yes, there is another debate. We should make the index for service sector prices alone. Okay, only services sector index we have to make. For that, in 2010, under the chairmanship of Professor C.P. Chandrasekhar, he's the basically he retired from the JNU. He was professor at CSP JNU. So under his chairmanship, committee was constituted. Okay, but still we are not using, but yes, it is under the process, the particularly for the service sector index. Clear? Okay, please see that what are if you're talking about the combined CPI inflation, this already a consumer price index and wholesale price index we discussed. But what are the difference? So difference you can get it, the commodities, the basket of commodities, what you are taking for estimation of the index, that is the things we have to know. But concept is same. It's based on the consumer price index inflation in the rural areas. It is based on the consumer price index of inflation in the urban areas. But the index you are forming, what are the commodities you are including, that's the matter for us. Okay, and you are several times you are saying that just I discussed in headline inflations, because it's more fluctuating due to the change in the price of food articles and the fuel price. Why? Because reason is that when you're going to formulate the index, so weight assigned to the food articles is relatively more. So you are constructing an index. If that index contributes or a particular sector, a particular product is contributing much more, definitely if the price of this factor is going to change, definitely your index value will change. And if it's increasing, means you are observing the inflations. Higher increase, you are going to observe higher inflations. Simple one. Why the debate is there? We should remove the prices of fuel price and foods prices from this headline inflation, and we should focus to the core inflation, because the moment you're removing the prices of agriculture and food articles and the fuel one, so that inflation is known as the core inflation. So only in the core sector you are talking about. And if you see the Indian economy, so we are more vulnerable to the food articles, food and the fuel one. If these two are going to increase, then our prices are going to increase, and we are more affected from these two items. If you think about the industrial products, that much of inflation you are not observing in the industrial sector. Okay, yeah, few questions. Okay, yeah, dear. Yeah, Amitav, you're asking how to handle headline inflations. See, simple, any inflation you are talking about, the only thing is that you have to improve the supply side and you have to decrease the excess demand side. Let me say you first, because in earlier classes I keeps discussing with you, okay, that inflation is due to the excess demand, and this excess demand may be due to the supply side, may be due to the demand side. Okay, if it comes from supply side, so we are talking about this is due to the supply constraint or due to the short-term fluctuation, like the short-term short-term you are saying, just like the increase in the fuel. Suddenly it's from before war it was around $80 per barrel, but now it's more than $120 per barrel. Sudden increase in the fuel, it leads to the higher inflation in the country. Off season you are facing the higher inflations, but during the season now your inflation is under control. This season based inflation you are also facing. Okay, so you can say like what a transitory we can say is these are known as a transitory one. Okay, so problem is that if overall headline inflation you want to control, then one thing is that you have to improve the supply constraint, and you have to make your economy so stable that any temporary fluctuations is not going to impact your country. Okay, but some factors really we don't have the control on that, like the price of fuel. Yeah, you can keep the reserve as much as possible, because in short term fluctuation you can manage from your reserves, but that is again another issue of the huge amount of investment you need for that. Okay, yes, but since headline inflation is more fluctuating due to these two articles, so we have to improve and solve our supply chain. Okay, we have to increase our production potentials, but fuel we can't do that. But yes, the substitute of the fuel we have to find out, so that demand of fuel is should decrease and we are able to meet our requirement. I think we can do that. Clementha and Partha, you are asking, so what are the, this is a temporary factors, you can say, like the suddenly the war happens and other things happen. Okay, and due to that the prices keeps fluctuating. So any moment you are facing the supply constraint or supply chain disruptions in international market, India is going to be affected. Okay, so this you can say, Partha. Okay, second, you can say discuss a few difference between headline inflation and core inflation. That's I discuss one. Is it clear, or if you want any specific, then let me inform. Okay. Only one thing, headline inflation means overall inflation means we are going to discuss will give you more clarity. Okay, so you understand that you are taking the major goods and services prices to form a basket, and their price level, you are making a price level or index, and on the basis of that you are saying whether if price index is keeps increasing, then you are saying it's combined inflation or core inflation, headline inflation. Okay, but if you remove these two, that is the price of food articles and the price of, this is a very huge percentage, okay, and the price of fuel, then definitely these two commodities you remove, then it's known as the core inflations. So fluctuation of core inflation relatively more stable in compared to your the headline inflation. Okay, so Indian market fuel prices increase in terms of price increase in international market, 100% true. But why not decrease in terms of international market when price of crude oil reduces? Biswajit, okay, okay. Reason I'm telling you, okay, reason I'm telling you, just in international market, P is the price in domestic market, clear? And P star price in international market. Suppose any product you can take. So in domestic market price is subject to the tax. So suppose plus T is the tax you are imposing on this product, and then you are getting the domestic product. Okay, domestic product price. Domestic price, not product, domestic price. So suppose P star is any product you are buying in the international market, and you are bringing in India. So once you bring in the India and you are selling it, so you have to pay. Suppose you refine it, after refining, you are selling in the country. So definitely government is going to charge the excise duty, which is known as the union excise duty, it is your union excise duty. Union excise duty. But if you're talking about the petroleum product, so here both the taxes, union excise duty and the state government excise duty are imposed. Both are imposing. So what's happened? In international market, price P star keeps declining, but at the same time the government keeps increasing the taxes. So in international price, the prices decline, but the same proportion government keeps increasing the taxes. Ultimately, the consumer who is paying the price P remain more or less same. So yes, it's a strategy. It's a strategy. Sorry to say, but it's true. During this pandemic and other time when economy was facing the recessionary one, so huge taxes government collected from these petroleum products. He never allowed to fall below a something, and it's a market determined. So whether demand and supply, it's irrespective of if government keeps increasing the taxes. So that price plus tax amount you have to pay, that is going to be the market price. Because remember, go to the my earlier class, I discussed get factor cost. If you are adding the NIT, net indirect taxes, so it's going to be the market price. And subsidy government is not paying nowadays, it's a market determined price. So all amount the taxes. And if already you are able to pay 100 rupees per liter, and they are just seeing the government, everything is fine, consumer habituated, individual habituated, they are paying this, everything is going fine, why the government will decrease the tax? Why it is going to decrease in the market and price of this product in the market if everything is going fine? But when you started protesting, they are getting the protest from the individuals, then government is okay, fine, I'm going to cut down some rate. So 1 rupees I cut, state will say I 50 paisa I will cut, 25 paisa I will cut. That is things is happening. So simple, why not you're getting the same lower price? Because the international price keeps declining but government keeps increasing. But already tax is higher. If international prices started increasing, so this price is going to be much higher. And when the government is getting protests from the different corners and started affecting the economy, maybe it's resulting higher inflations, then government is going to cut down the taxes to some extent so that domestic price can be lower. That's the government is playing these things in right nowadays. So this way it works. Clear, dear? Okay. Fine, Biswajit. Next, Krishna, you are asking, sir, why does not services measure in WPI inflation? That was the trend. You understand, Krishna, one thing. That information already given you. If you take very starting point, even after independence you take, there was no provision of taxation or taxes taxing the service sector. There was no provision. So never, the people were never thinking earlier his services sector can contribute that much of the GDP. That was the reason that given there was no tax provisions in India for service sector. The service sector you started including after economic reforms. When your Professor Rajaji Chelaya's committee recommended to increase the tax base and bring the services on the tax net, then we started taxing from 93-94 onwards. Then few services we started including under the tax net, and then finally we reached at the point where we have given the parity between the goods and services and you implemented the GST. So understand it. So when you form the price index, you have taken the only price of goods and at the wholesale price. Okay, that was the thing, and you continued, the practice was continued, but later on you realized, no, if you measure the WPI, it's not reflecting the actual benefits or actual impact in the country. Two reasons. It is not included the price of services, and second, it's measured at the wholesale price. Consumers, individuals, they are not buying at the wholesale price, they are buying at the retail price, which is known as the consumer price. And second, services sector, which contributes a significant proportion. Significant means more than 50% of GDP. You understand this? Okay, so we have to go. That's government changed it from the WPI to now targeting the CPI, but still we are measuring the WPI. Yeah. Okay. Sir, why does not services measure in WPI inflation? That's Krishna. Okay, Krishna, you asked twice. Okay, fine. Sir, what is the need for the producer price index instead of WPI for measuring inflation? Subhajit, you understand, yeah? Wholesale price means, suppose I'm a wholesaler, I purchased at a price from the producer, but same price I'm not going to sell to the retailer. I'm the wholesaler. I have to keep some profit margin as a wholesaler, then I will sell to the retailer. It means wholesaler is the price which wholesaler are getting. This price producers are not getting there. And what the producers getting the price, on the basis of that price you have to measure the index, and that is known as the producers price index. So we are just concerned with the price which is received by the producer. Then you have to, on the basis of that, you produce the, because that is going to reflect the actual cost or actual price what the producers are getting that. So on the basis of what actually producers getting, they can decide, yes, what should be the price and how we can change our portfolio, other things. Clear? Fine. Weighted average stands for, sir, how to calculate, sir? Please, Ananda, just I'm going to just say you the weighted average. Weighted average means it's a very basic things. I think we done in the class 9-10, and I hope you also completed your basic maths. So if you go and see your basic maths, so you calculating the average arithmetic mean or mean. We are talking about mean. So mean you can calculate one on the basis of normal mean. That is just you take the number of variables, you divide by the number of the items. You take all the variables plus and then just divide by the number of items. So here you are giving the equal weight to every variables. But sometimes one variable is coming twice, one variable is coming thrice, like this. So different frequency are there for a particular variable. So according to their number of, how many times they come in that particular pool of things. So you have to take that weight. Suppose it's come thrice, so you can give the 3. 2 is coming 3, 4 is coming 4 times. Like this, the weight you can assign. That is known as the weighted average. So why weighted average we are giving? Because you understand कि weight are assigned as per the contribution they are going to do that, or you can say you are going to demand in the normal life. So if you take the consumers, okay, what is the normally demanded products according to the demand from the normal persons or citizens of the, the stakeholders you take, what are the normally demanded? These commodities you are taking in the baskets, and in these baskets you assign the weight according to the demand in the economy. Suppose food is demanded more out of the given level of income. So you can assign food more weight, like this. You have to fuel according to the what is the general demand. Suppose you take 100 rupees, the total is spent by the person. Then you think what is the percentage of spending in the fuel, how much percent is spending in the food articles, how many is spending in the, say, meat and fish, egg. Like this you can just calculate it. Clear here? So that way you assign the weightage, and the next time when you are going to formulate the index, the same weight you can take and different demand you can take, the prices you can take. So according to that weight you consider the prices of the commodities, and then you can take calculate the average price, weighted average price, and compare with the previous period. If there is increase, then inflation is there, and if what is the rate, how much it's increased, that is inflation rate, it will give you. So this way generally we followed here. Clear, Anand? Okay, and one question, Surajit, you asked, sir, what is the relation between CPI and headline inflation? No, headline inflation you are measuring on the basis of consumer price index. Index you are measuring based on the consumer price index. So consumer price index, yes, maybe your headline inflation, maybe your core inflation, because you are taking in that at the retail price, and goods and services you are taking this. Clear, dear? Basically, when RBI takes headline inflation or CPI, Surjit, it is a headline inflation but based on the consumer price index. In this way, you take headline inflation but based on consumer price index. Nothing, Krishna, just I discussed. You are talking about the producer's price index means the actual price received, the price of for their produce received by the producers. So suppose I'm selling the suppose wholesaler selling at rupees say 10, but 10 rupees is not received by the producer. Producer receiving maybe 8 rupees, maybe 9 rupees. So this price you have to take. So different commodities what you're going to consider under the producer index basket. Just you take the price received by the producers. On the basis of that, you are making the index that is known as the producers index. Clear, dear? Subham, you are asking S&P, yeah, Standard and Poor's global ratings recently said core inflation in India has been declining subsequently. Yeah, an elevated 6.25% policy rate limits. The need for further rate hikes. How core inflation of India is declining. Yes, dear. I think Subham, just you wait. Give me some times. Let me just tell you the index, and then it will clear your most of your questions. It is going to clear. Just let me inform you. So I'm going to just discuss about the on the basis of major groups, clear. So just major groups. I want this space, so I just changing this. Yes, dear. Please, first of all, you just write in your note. Why? Because if you are knowing this chart, no, you don't, it's not necessary you have to remember all the numericals, but you can feel, yes, what is the contribution of this particular item in the index. Okay, in the index. Please make this. Then, so many questions what you are asking, you can get your answer if you are able to understand this. We have taken the, I just discussing the major categories, major groups. I'm not going to individual one. The major category we are just trying to explain you. You completed, dear? So just you check here. Then the questions, debate, you can very easily you can get it. Okay, just you have to understand only one thing. Okay, when we were making or we are solving even today the mean or mean we are trying to get it, then yes, one of the mean we calculate normal mean, just in normal weight you are assigning, just taking the variables you are, like go back to this simple example dear. What is that you are doing? Suppose normally three variables is there, x1, x2, x3. So normal arithmetic mean you are doing x1 plus x2 plus x3 divided by 3. But if suppose x1 is coming f1 times, x2 is coming f2 times, x3 is coming f3 times, then what is the mean? So mean is going to be f1 x1 plus f2 x2 plus f3 x3 divided by f1 plus f2 plus f3. And this mean is known as weighted average. This mean is known as weighted average. I think this concept we already developed at the class 9-10. Okay. So basically you assigned a weight, and sometimes in place of F1 we are also writing W1, also writing W2 or W3. We are writing this W also because weight is assigned. So what it represents? It simply represents if weight is more or frequency is more, it means that's particular variable you assign more importance, more importance. Weight is less means okay, that particular variable is relatively contributed relatively less. So that is a normal concept to calculate our mean, and we are used in the maths. So the same things you bring it here. Same thing you bring it here. Now see that all of you. So what you are getting? Broader we have taken, broader, okay, because in food there are so many individual items there. So just you take food and beverages. We have first divided the rural areas, So these are the rural areas basket. The basket you are choosing, and in that basket means the prices of these commodities only you are taking. So you constituted or selected the rural basket, and you also selected the made the urban basket, and one is the combined one which is for the all over India. Clear? So for rural areas, you given the weight of 54.18, that is the food and beverages. Okay, pan, tobacco, and other intoxicants. In rural areas, you assign 3.26% weight. Clothing and footwear, it is 7.36%. Housing not considered as this because, okay, in rural areas, okay, not taken the housing price as one of the inflation indicator. Fuel and light, they have taken 7.94, and other miscellaneous, okay, they contributing here 27.2. Other than this, which are really important for the individuals, their prices they have taken as the miscellaneous. You can see it is a whole 100%. If you compare this with the urban, that's I think you noted, just you get in your notebook. Okay, in urban, food, food and beverages contribution of weight is designed relatively less. So in urban area, just is given 36.29, which is lower than your rural areas. Okay, because if you compare in the basically in the rural areas consumption pattern and urban areas consumption pattern. So on the basis of pattern, you can say that rural people proportionately of their income, they are spending more on the food articles. Okay, and we are relatively less. So just you say 36.29 we are spending on food, and pan, tobacco, intoxicants 1.36, and clothing and footwear is now 5.57. See dear, you understand it is a weightage is assigned. Weight is always calculating out of suppose a given amount, how much percentage you are contributing in different items. So since if you take the total expenditure on the different articles in the rural areas, definitely the weight may change, but does not mean that the absolute amount is going, it's lower. Okay, but you have take the higher income and higher spending, so their weight may be different. So clothing is given 5.57, but see, housing is contributing 21.67 amount. Means if in the basket the prices you take, then 21.67% of weight is assigned to the price of room. I mean the houses prices. So if the even houses prices keeps increasing in the economy, it's going to affect your inflations because it is a part of your index. Fuel and light contributing 5.58%, and miscellaneous is 29.57%. And combined you're talking about, then combined food for the all over India 45.86%, and pan, tobacco, and this is 2.38%. Clothing and footwear is 6.56%, 53%. Housing at 10.07. Fuel and light is 6.87. Miscellaneous this. So just you think here, the food and beverages they contributing very huge amount, 45.86 in all over India. When you're talking about rural areas, 54.18. And fuel is contributing 6.86%, 84%, 6.84%. Fuel and light, it's a contributing, because you remember increase in crude oil, slowly it's going to increase the all energy prices in the world and also in the country like India. So it's going to affect. If just you take these two, it's going to be around 51. 51 means it's around, you can just add it, 41. Okay. 45.86. 45.86 plus 6.84. 6.84. So it's going to give you 42.7. It's going to give you 42.7. So it's a 42.7 is just contributed by your food articles and fuel. So you can imagine that why headline inflation, but in headline inflation you have to take the prices of these commodities and with this proportion, with these proportions. So any fluctuations in the food articles and the fuels, that is a 52.7%, definitely your price level is going to fluctuate. Okay, price level is going to fluctuate and you can observe the inflations. That is the one thing in headline inflations. But core inflation, just you remove price of this and price of this. So what are left? This part, housing part, and miscellaneous one. The moment you are improving, just excluding, you can just understand it. And if you see the nature of fluctuations, food is fluctuating more. This part is very relatively less once it is a fixed after budget. What I observed personally, after budget or implementation budget, only during the budget time the prices keeps increasing, not in the meanwhile. Okay, so they are not fluctuating more. Clothing and footwear, it's changing, but relatively very less. But again, to some extent, which the consumers can bear it. So not that fluctuating every month. Okay, housing, yes, it's fluctuating, but rural areas no, and it's only all over India. It's contributing 10.07 to some extent, we can say. Fuel and light, yes, fluctuating. Miscellaneous, relatively less. So if you observe this one, then you are getting this. Okay, you are getting this. So that's the reason we are saying if fluctuations in food and fluctuations in the fuel, these two are fluctuating much more. So that is the reason we are, and how they are contributing, you can just see that. So why it's contributing more, why they are fluctuating. From this data, from this information, you can get there. Clear? And why we are talking about why core inflation, when you remove the list from the list, the food and the fuel one, so the fluctuating items, the remaining items are relatively less fluctuating. So core inflation will looks or it will represent a relatively stable one. Clear to all? Or any other doubts? Biswajit, housing is not, considered as that because in rural areas, it's not, contributing very significantly because rural areas, rented house concept particularly is very less, very less. Even the people are poor, but they are staying, okay, they are staying relatively their own, or maybe on the other place they are staying. But in urban areas, the major section of the household, they are staying in the rented house, so that price matter. So recently in newspaper it is said that in global market, goods inflation starts moderating. And service inflation is very high. But India goods inflation is rising and service inflation is loading. Why there is a no, dear Partha, we can see the global market situations prevailing in the global market and situations prevailing in the Indian market. If suppose something is comfortable in supply, demand is also comfortable. So why you are expecting price will go up? Because finally inflation is depending on the supply and demand. Why price will go up? Due to the excess demand. If our domestic economy, the services sector, which we perform better because around more than 50% is coming from the services, so it's a comfortable supply. So since the comfortable supply remain in the country, we are not facing it. But the whole world is, that's maybe due to the supply disruptions of the services, they are affected much more. So there is a possibility there. Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, you said that when, yes, Rajit, again. Sir, you said that when the prices of foods and fuel increase, in the case of headline inflations, then monetary policy will less effective. Yes, true. That is the reason. When I was discussing your monetary system, Surajit, if you understand this, I discussed with you that कि suppose RBI increase repo rate. If RBI is going to increase the repo rate, really you are going to cut down your demand for roti, chawal, vegetables, dal. And are you going to eat something? Suppose you are going to take the dinner. Yeah, suppose our mama, I mean, family that's asking ki, kitna chapati, how many chapati, roti you want. So really we are asking them, just wait, let me see the first repo rate. If, no, repo rate is higher, so cut down the chapati, roti, cut down the rice, cut down the wheat. No dear, we are not doing that. So what is the repo rate is going on in the market? It's not going to affect our demand, particularly these products, because they are the necessary product and very inelastic in nature. So we have to consume it. We have to consume it. Okay. These things we have to understand. We have to consume it. So RBI changing the repo rate if the economy is facing the higher inflations. So they are trying to control the liquidity. They are trying to control the demand, aggregate demand. Go back to the earlier class. Now you link. Just I'm linking this. If you're trying to decrease aggregate demand, your objective is to, I will control the inflation. But problem is you are not able to control inflation because the demand for these products you are not going to decrease. So when few months back, 6-7 months back, you go and just see that if RBI started contractionary monetary policy, then RBI governor was given the statement several times that we have to wait few months to control the inflation. We are able to control inflation in the few months. Why you are saying insisting few months? Because you that is also it's the working inflation expectations. Okay, inflation because expectation also contributing in inflation. So you're changing the expectation of the individual. You don't expect for high inflation. So from that side, it's going to moderate. But as far as actual food grains is concerned, it's only improved when seasons comes and seasons came in the economy, and then the production and or supply has improved. Then only we are able to declare, I mean, decrease the inflation or inflation is decreasing in the country. So sometimes we are saying inflation, the amount RBI is not able to control the inflation due to these reasons. And fuel, why the we are not able to? One of the reason, because other reason is the fuel. Fuel is not in our hand. It is external factor. It is external factor. And if it is external factor, we can't change the price of this. We have to accept this. Okay, dear Surajit. So what is the effect of CPI inflation? Nothing. The CPI inflation, this normal inflation we are talking about. But it is based on the index that we formulated on these items. So where the goods and services, these are also included. Service of different, that is miscellaneous is there. We included this. Broadly, we have taken what the government of India taking this. So they're taking this one. Okay. So if you're taking this, then you included that. So if it is going up, then your purchasing power is going to decrease. That CPI, if you're talking about the inflation, the impact of the inflation, so you can just write. So if today really I'm going to just say these things, so what we done in the all classes, dear? Several occasions I just discussed ki higher inflations. You can write. Impacts of higher inflation. That this part already I keeps connecting you from the very initial class. So first you can say the real income of the individuals is going to decrease. Real income of the individuals going to decrease. And you are knowing because inflation is going to decrease your purchasing power. So real income is going to decrease. If real income is going to decrease, then aggregate demand for goods and services, also going to decrease, because when you're demanding less, then it's going to affect your aggregate demand. So aggregate demand for the goods and services is going to decrease. Third one, you can say investment is going to decrease. We are talking about the higher inflation, remember, because if any investor is coming in the market for investment purpose, if inflation is so high, so the investment cost is going to increase. So that time they don't prefer to go for investment. They will wait. So investment is going to decrease. And decrease in investment, you can just understand, is going to decrease the production potentials. And decrease investment again is going to decrease the aggregate demand. Oh, it's not aggregate demand. It's, you can write, it's decrease investment is going to decrease aggregate demand. Clear? Okay, if there is a higher monetary inflations, 4, so RBI is going to implement, RBI will implement contractionary monetary policy. And if it is so, then what will happen? Lending rate of interest is going up, and which is again going to decrease your investment. Okay. And higher inflations, you can also write, these are the high inflations is going to decrease your exports. Yeah, it's going to decrease your exports and going to increase your imports. Yeah, you can keep connecting. And if these things are there, if these things is happening, then your current account CAD is going to increase. And then you keep connecting it. Depreciation is going to happen. Again, inflation is going to be, aggravated due to this. So these are all things you are knowing, dear. All these things you are knowing. Here's how it's going to affect the economy. So simply you can connect the impacts of high inflation. You can just say that. Check to all. Is it clear? Now you can write it. The impacts, concept, discussions. Okay, fine. Okay, Madan? Madan is clear? And everyone, just see that. Another information that already I discussed with you, just you include in that. Okay, so this part we completed. Let's consider why. Okay, is combined data is the average of rural and urban or separate one, please? No, combined you are taking the different weight you are taking, but that is you are taking on an average all over India. What is the consumption, and according to weight you are assigning for the prices of the different commodities. It's not the simple additions, dear. Clear, Krishna? Okay, one question, sir, this Partha you asked, huh? No, this question is not asked. Okay, Partha you asked why fuel and light has more weightage in rural areas than to urban areas. No, Partha, you just understand one thing. You are talking about the total demand for goods, and in respect of total consumption of the urban people, out of that you are giving the taking the weight. It's not the weight is randomly you given. No. What is the normal pattern of consumptions? On the basis of pattern of consumptions, how much you are spending on particular goods in compared to the selected baskets. If you selected basket, if you assume ki 100% we are spending, so how much you are spending on a particular goods, accordingly the weight is assigned. Then according to that weight, this weight you assign to the price of that goods, because if that goods contributes more, it means if that goods price is going to increase, then overall impact is going to be more in your in your welfare. If weight is assigned very weight, it is contributing in total expenditure very less amount, then definitely their price also will contribute very less amount. So whether it's a price keeps increasing, but hardly it's going to impact the overall your expenditure. Okay, real income, because you can connect with that. So as per the pattern of consumption rule in urban areas, we are deciding the weight, not randomly about that. Clear? Krishna, you're asking, sir, this table shows nothing. Atoms are not leading to inflations. That means our country is not in inflations. No, Krishna, if you think about the food articles and the fuel one, yeah, it's there. But other than this, they are relatively very less. That is the reason we are saying core inflation is really very, uh, comfortable. Core inflation is comfortable, but CPI is very high. Meanwhile, wholesale price index was registered very higher one. The reason was that the services sector prices is not increased that much, but good services prices increased that much. So you have selected to that one that can showing the higher growth rate. So yes, it is sometimes it's happened. So you have to just see the background. What are the reasons behind it? If you know the reasons, you know the understanding, then you can easily explain it why this is happening. Clear? Sir, in economics, there is a term called sustainable development. My question is, if one country's exports is another country's import, and one's country's wellness adversely affect other countries' wellness in case of open economy, in case of closed economy, then also it affects a section of society within that country. Agree? Then how to achieve sustainable development, and apart from this exam point of view in general sense, what is the need to study economy if obviously affects some section of society? What is the need to study economy if we obviously affect some sections of the society? Subrata, Vairagya, Nadia, sorry sir if I use inappropriate words, but it's my genuine questions apart from the exam point. Subrata, okay, you fine. What I can say. Uh, Take one example, dear. Take one example. And that example you can get from the welfare economics. Welfare economics. And in the welfare economics, that part of the economics. So welfare economics, and there's a good work is contributed by the Professor Amartya Sen, and so many articles. He's known as when the welfare economics come this part, his contribution is there, and always we used to read his article. So he worked on that. But apart from his contribution, if you go to the general understanding of the welfare economics, so welfare maximizations, it says that where you can say I reached at the maximizations, bliss point generally we can say, but forget about the core the part of the economics. Just you think we achieved the point where our welfare in the society has maximized. So you can say we reached at the equilibrium point in that sense where it's not possible to increase the welfare of any person without decreasing the welfare of the other persons, and that is known as the Pareto optimality conditions. The Pareto who explained this Pareto optimality conditions, where we used to say this point, if it is not possible at any point, I'm not able to increase the welfare of any person without decreasing others, so that point is the optimum point. Means from this point onwards, if we redistribute, someone is getting well off only after someone is losing it, then we can say, okay, fine, this is the conditions. So you take in this way, why you are comparing one country with the other country? Not a single country in the world, I'm telling you, they are thinking about the development of the other country. Maybe USA, maybe Russia, maybe China, maybe India. I only concerned about my nations. It is a fact and we have to accept it. Even the society, the people are doing so many things, but each and every individual concerned about their welfare. But yes, in economy says that if we start everyone thinking the welfare, okay, and without harming others, then whole economy can reach to the optimum. I mean the welfare maximizations. So you asked the questions whether I need to study the economy, other than the exam purpose. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. Because you have to. There should be clarity in the how your economy, where you are staying. You are part of that economy. You should know how the economy is working. If something is going to happen, how I am going to be affected, how it's going to affect me, then only you can take precautions. Then only you can just develop yourself so that you're not going to face that problems. So we have to, but problem is that we are doing unintentionally everything. Why you are studying today? Just tell me why you are preparing for this exam. Because you want to get a job. And why you want to get a job? Because you want income. And why you want income? Because you have to maintain your expenditure. And why you want to expand the expenditure? Because you want to survive in the economy. You want to earn for your family. And for that, you have to work. And working means what? You are participating in productive activities. You are aware that if I'm going to be more eligible, more productive, then you are going to get the more jobs. I mean, better jobs, you can say. Not more jobs, better jobs. So your productivity you're talking about, income you're talking about, is skill, human skill, that is the education you're talking about. Everything you're doing. So what do you think? It is beyond your economy? No, dear, it is a part of your economy. But these all things, development of the human skill, that is the creation of job opportunities. Why government is doing this? Why? Say me, the West Bengal government is doing this. Why? Why this project is launched by the government? Only to you get the opportunity to participate in the center services. The government is helping you. That is giving you facilities to yes participate. Opportunities, that's creating it. This is the part of economics. If government is not going to industrialize, government is not going to develop the agriculture, other things, where you can get the food, where you can get the job opportunities. If investment is not coming, how can you get other things? If roads are not constructed in your area, how can you move? If bicycles not produced, factories, your bicycles, your say a scooter or a scooty, two-wheelers, you understand, these all are the part of the economy you have to study there. So it's starting from the individual to the macroeconomic level, all are integrated, But in economics, what we are doing that, we are putting it in a very academic way. In the first day, always I say in my class, dear, I'm not going to I'm not going to teach you economics, because teaching means you are knowing new things. Until today, I just discussed everything, what you are already knowing that. But yes, I tried to put clarity. I tried to clear your concept relating to this so that you can make yourself, okay, eligible and understood. You are going to understand so that you can write and answer this. So understand here, अगर आप economics नहीं पढ़ते, if you are not studying economics, but unintentionally you are knowing economics. So don't say ki yes, I don't need it. We are knowing it. Okay, everyone knowing this economics, but only not in an academic way, but in normal understanding, we know this, dear. Okay. ठीक है, Subrata? Yeah, I can understand your genuine questions. Sir, please, what will be the effect of CRR and repo rate due to higher inflations? Definitely Krishna, if inflation is the high inflations, then definitely government is going to increase the CRR and repo rate. They want to decrease the liquidity in the economy so that you are able to decrease aggregate demand, you are able to control inflation. Simple. That's already I discussed it. Demand pull inflation, cost pull inflation. So just wait. I will just discuss with you demand pull and cost pull inflations. And next question, Subhajit, you are asking. You said that due to the impact of inflation, the exports are decreasing, but inflation also affects the exchange value. Yes, that may encourage exporters to export more products and services. But Subhajit, you understand this. Suppose inflation is there, they are buying the goods, they are buying the goods from you, they stop demanding or they cut down the demand. Why? Because your goods has become more expensive. But your product is really, and now in depreciation, but depreciation takes time, later on it stays, for inflation causing this, and that's the result is the your depreciation. But you can understand, even the depreciation is there, some extent your export improves, suppose some extent you're improved, but due to depreciation of domestic currency, your all imported items becomes more expensive, all imported items becomes more expensive. And if all imported items in India becomes more expensive, so you're knowing India is the import based country, and most of the items we are importing, we are using as a input, and your input cost will go up, then cost of production will increase, again you will face the inflations. So always you think about this one, and which dominates it matter for us, if adverse impact dominates, then finally adverse impact will be there in the economy. If positive impact is going to dominate your negative or adverse impact, then it's good for the country. But what is going to happen for country like us, because we import based country, so export will not improve that much. Yeah, exports may decline, but even exports, suppose there is no change, still they are demanding, suppose it's a neutralized due to inflation, due to depreciation, but due to increase in your imports, imported products value is going to increase, and you will face the inflation. See why? Because most of the product is inelastic in nature, you can't cut down the demand. You can increase, but you can't cut down the demand. And what's happening in the right now? You can just go and see that the $1 is 82 rupees around, but we are not cut down the imported products demand in the country, because all are like crude oil, it's universal inputs, we can't cut it. Next is there any relationship between higher and hyperinflations and devaluation of currency? As due to hyperinflation, Zimbabwe currency has been declared worthless in past. What measures are taken by corporate sectors for inflation? Nothing dear. Hyperinflation means inflation is going to be around 100% times, 500 times, 1000 times. That's way of inflation keeps there. So purchasing power of domestic currency is going to decrease. Purchasing power going to decline. No one is just recognizing what is the 2000 rupees. 2000 rupees hardly you are getting 1-2 units, like this I'm talking about. So in that case, your value of the money has declined. No one is going to accept it. Even forget about Zimbabwe, the Venezuela is the happened. It's happened also in the Venezuela. So Venezuelan currency was not acceptable by the even domestic individual. They started using the dollar. What is the difference between demand pull and cost pull inflation? Yeah, Anil, just wait. And also this question is asked by the Biswajit. I will explain you. Definitely I will explain you. Just you write few lines, I will explain you. Okay. So this index is clear. Write some lines. Right. One concept is, you write hyperinflation. Since you asked, so write hyperinflation. Okay, right. If inflation is out of control, and annual rate of inflation is the annual rate of inflation in the 3 digits, just in the 3 digit or 4 digit, 4 digit is known as hyperinflation. Three digit means more be 100%, maybe 200%, like this, maybe 500%, maybe 1000%. This type of inflation is there, so we can say it's a hyperinflation. Okay, right, is known as hyperinflations. Please write. Prices shoot up overnight. Prices shoot up overnight and rapidly reduces the value of currency that is purchasing power of money, 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 to the extent that the government may replace the existing currency, from the with existing currency through may replace the existing country with the new currency, That's happened. If they reached at this level of inflation, they are doing that. Clear? This is the hyperinflation here. Okay. Next is the stagflation. Stagflation. This word we are using, just you divide these two words. Stag means stagnation in the country, stagnation in the economy, and this inflation means higher inflation. This is the concept. So if you add these two, it is known as the stagflation. If add these two, it is known as stagflation. So stag means stagnations in the economy, or economy is facing the recessionary effect, and also the prevailing the higher inflation in the country, and also prevails in the country higher inflation. Higher inflation. Clear? So when in economy, if you face economy is facing stagnations and also economy is facing the higher inflation, so that situation in the country you can term as the stagflations. Meaning is this clear? Just write one word. It refers to a situation. It refers to a situation in an economy when inflation and stagnation both occurred in the country. Both occurred, just you write fully because already written in an economy. Both occurred. Okay, full stop, right? In other words, it is an economic situation in which inflation and economic stagnations, same thing you're writing, inflation and economic stagnation, higher inflation always write, or you can write in other words, it is an economic situation where, in which, better you write where In place of in which you write where higher inflation, and economic stagnation, or recession occur simultaneously. Occur simultaneously. Clear? Okay, dear. Yeah. So demand pull and cost pulls. I will do this, dear. And dear sir, did not get clarity. The combined data seems odd. What is that, dear? Combined data seems odd. What do you mean by that? Why you're saying it's an odd one? If you are just get it clear, then only if you clarify your the combined data is simply the as per the combined all over India you are talking about, not the rural and urban average you are talking about. So that's the reason you have taken it. The food it comes around 45.86, pan and tobacco it's come 2.38, clothing is coming 6.53, housing is taken 10.07. Don't take in that average. No, don't take in that average, because when housing is coming in the combined one, so there you are considering average, I mean over on an average, the total individual on an average you are taking. So it is there, but in particularly when you are going for the rural areas, you are not considering these variables. And I'm not made this indexed here. Okay, this index is basically used by the in the economy. Okay, and they're estimating the, I mean, inflation on the basis of this. So just I informed you okay, these are the criteria on which, these are the variables on which they are considering and they are estimating the the inflation in the country. Maybe a small slight difference it may be there, but these are the variables, and the percentage contribution it will more or less remain same. More or less remain same. Still, if some new one is coming, then small variables, a small percentage may change. Okay, but that is not going to change the overall contribution in that. So in this way, you have to take, dear. Next, you answer why fuel cost is less in urbans. Rural areas can use fuel woods and other fuel like which is free of cost to them in most cases. See, a fuel is not you're talking about what you're talking about, Subhankar. Actually, the amount of money they are spending on these items that you are going to consider. Okay, means percentage. If you take the total percentage of the they are spending, so these items they have taken. So only out of these items, what is the contribution made by these items? That is the going to decide the weight. That is going to decide the weight. And accordingly weight is assigned. You understand, first you are selecting the commodities bundle. Number one, you understand, selecting the commodities bundle, and the commodities bundle what you are commodity bundle is what you considered, that commodities bundle you can check on an average in India how much you are spending on this, and how much you are spending on this percentage is going to assign for making the price index on an average all over India, only for urban areas and only for rural areas. So first you decide what are the variables you are going to consider. Like in the rural areas, you not consider the housing, but urban you considered. But when you're taking all over India, it's a percent definitely decline because you're taking the both combined one. It's going to. Okay, so in this way you have to take there. Okay, consistent and non-consistent, we can only analyze if these are the part which is taken, then what is the impact and how it's going to contribute in this. But if it's a decision, the government, that we have to go through this. Yes, you can say that which one is good, core or headlines, that you can say that. But this is the way of the government. Why they are doing that? As per the pattern of consumption in rural areas, urban areas and all over India. This is the criteria. Clear? Now, sir, we might in the future change our currency to dollar from rupee. But why you want to name other persons, other countries' name currency dollar? Means getting others things. It's really good for any country. Yes, I prefer if you are writing these things, sir. India should develop in a such a way that we can achieve the status of our country currency rupee as equal to the dollar. But why I will change it? We have to see dollar is the just name given by the US dollar, but US dollar is carrying the importance in the world not due to the name. They are carrying the importance due to the contribution they made in international transactions. So we should increase our importance of rupee in international transaction. Definitely we are going to compete with the dollar, like the Chinese currency. Today they are competing with the dollar. Does not mean that China is going to name this currency dollar. So in this way we have to think, Pallavi. Clear? If so, there is no remedy to it by reducing import by no, Pallavi. We can't, because dollar is the legal currency of the the USA. You can't print it. You can't print it. That's we have to understand. Clear? So now we can come back after the break, dear. Okay. Thank you, everyone.